Hey, hello everybody. This is Damien with Rosy Side Farm. Today is Black Friday. It is the day after Thanksgiving, 2022. It's raining, it's a little chilly, and we are going to do some cuttings or start some cuttings in some propagation boxes, hopefully to kind of beef up our farmers market booth for next spring. This is the weeping willow that we brought from our other house, actually, and it's doing great here in our front yard. Could use pruning, so it's a perfect time to get cuttings anyway. So I'm going to cut off some large branches from the weeping willow and then take them over into the barn to do some propagating. And where I want to cut is under a node. I don't know how easy they are to see on camera, but there's a node. So I want to cut underneath of one of these nodes in order to have a good place for root growth to begin. Another plant we're going to propagate are some Desert King figs. And if you look, it was $16.98 at the store, but we actually got them for $5 on clearance at a big box store. I believe it was Home Depot or Lowe's. So we're going to take a couple of these and get the cuttings we can get off of them and then plant what's left over in our orchard. And what we're going to start these cuttings in is just regular old playground sand. So what we're going to use is our growing box. It's just an old plastic tub. It's been out in the sun, so maybe a one-time thing. It's already cracking a little bit, but it's not a big deal. But I just got to drill some drainage holes in the bottom, fill it with sand, then we'll get to propagating. So nothing fancy, just a few irrigation holes in the bottom so that they're not sitting in water over the rooting period. So one thing I decided to do that's a little off script is I just put some paper down over top the irrigation holes that water will easily pass through, it'll disintegrate. Just so I'm afraid when I pour the sand in, it's so fine that it would just go through the holes and I'd be wasting my time. There'd be sand all over my my barn floor. So just a little something off script from the research I've done. So guys, this is what I came up with. Various thicknesses of cuttings, and from all the research I've done, the most important part is making sure that the bottom has one of those nodes, and they are all pointing right now with the bottom facing towards me. So as I cut them, I was very careful to make sure I knew which direction they were going in, because it's very easy to get them all mixed up. So this is all very much new to us. So I took some thick cuttings and I took some very thin cuttings because I don't know what's going to work best. I don't know how it's going to work. So this is very, very much an experiment for us. So with these cuttings, I'm going to dip them in some rooting hormone powder. And the reason I'm using this just because I have it. I've had it for a little while. From what I've seen, like maybe the liquid is better that you measure, depending on if it's hardwood or softwood cuttings, and these are hardwood cuttings. But I guess the best stuff to use is the stuff that you have. So what I've done is I've taken my knife and I've just cut a little slit in the sand to put the cuttings in, and I'm going to put them super close together. I'm going to count how many cuttings I have to see what my potential yield's going to be, and then in months and months and months, we'll see what I actually have. So after our count, there are 35 weeping willow cuttings, and you see how much of the box it's taking up, almost nothing. So I should be able to fit hundreds and hundreds of cuttings in here and hopefully get some good results. So I did the same thing with my figs. I'm gonna have much less cuttings because it's a much smaller plant, but I also have those plants to take cuttings off of as well. So I'm gonna get all my cuttings done, set up my figs before I move on to the next plant. 32 of our figs in the box. And those are the Desert King figs. Like I said, it says $16.98, but we got them for like $5. Black Triple Crown Blackberry, Triple Crown Blackberries are next up. This is all the cuttings I have. I only had one plant that survived our move. So hopefully we can restock our own blackberry population, as well as have some to sell at the farmer's market. So the cuttings we have so far, we have our original figs that we talked about before. I'm sorry, we have our weeping willows, followed by our twigs, followed by the black thornless, or the thornless blackberries. And then I have one line of elderberry. And really what I want to do is, I have raspberries I'm about to do. I want a line between the blackberries and the raspberries that I would recognize easily so I don't get them confused. If I had to do it over again, and I'm not redoing this, I'd have put the blackberries first, then put a bunch of figs, then put the raspberries. But honestly, I didn't know I'd be able to fit this many cuttings into this box. So just going around my property with plants we already have. We have a little fig tree that we planted out here at the end of our garden. Find out what it is exactly. A Celeste fig, I believe it's the way you say it. Could be wrong. So I'm going to get what few cuttings I can get off of this. I was only able to get 4 cuttings off of that last fig tree, so I just put them at the end of these the raspberries just to fill out the row. And I didn't need to separate the blackberries and the raspberries because the raspberries are thorned and the blackberries are thornless, but I do have that layer of elderberries in between that I thought was a good idea at the time. Out here we have some Diana Rosa Sharon. So we have room in the box, so we're going to propagate them. I got to check this tag to make sure I'm allowed to do this, but I'm definitely allowed to do it and plant them on my own property, so we're going to give them a shot. One line of crepe myrtles right next to our raspberries and the few figs that we were able to catch off the Celeste fig tree. 2 rows of Rose of Sharon. Next to it, one line of burning bush. I'm sorry, that's a line of butterfly bush. And the last row is the burning bush that's next to the butterfly bush. So if you see, I've got a bunch of room here. I could add more cuttings. Just really don't have any more plants that I want to make cuttings from. We got a ton of raspberries in here. Coming over, we have a bunch of weeping willows. I could put more weeping willows on the other side. Maybe I'll do that to finish this up. But got some figs in here. So hopefully out of all these cuttings, we get a few that are going to root and become viable plants for us to hopefully either plant on our own farm or to sell at this spring's farmer's market. Now the last and probably hardest part of this job, cover it with a white plastic bag and forget about it. So it's back here in our little storage area next to the pole barn. So leave it there, come back in the spring, maybe give it a check real quick, and that's about it. Hey, thanks for checking us out. Come springtime, or when it's time to check on these cuttings, we'll come back with another video, give an update, and hopefully we're repotting them in order to sell them. So thanks for checking us out. This is Rosy Side Farm. See you next time.